What's going on YouTube? So when this new generation of Highlander was introduced just last year, it pushed the boundaries of refinement and luxury to a new level for this model. But now for the second model year, Toyota is not setting still with the introduction of this new XSE trim level, which is aimed at a totally different audience. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in and see what this XSE is all about. So where else would be better to start out this video than with the exterior design, because that of course is what is really different about this XSE. So just like we saw at the Chicago Auto Show when it debuted, Toyota has basically completely renovated the front end to be unlike any other version of the Highlander. So you have the dark mesh grille up here in the front. And then down below that, you'll notice you have a really large lower grille that goes across the entire front end and actually bears some resemblance to what you get with like the Camry XSE. Now along the bottom, you'll notice you have a silver accent that kind of punctuates everything. And then as we slide over here, we have our standard LED headlights. So these are actually the upscale projector LED headlights that are shared with the limited and the platinum trim levels. And then down below, you'll also find standard fog lights. Now, if you're familiar with the Highlander, you'll know that Toyota offers a really wide variety of wheel options, and you get one more this year with this XSE. So this is a 20-inch alloy, which is the same size as what you get with limited and platinum trim, but you have an exclusive design with a lot of black color contrast. Really stands out and matches well with the aggressive exterior. Now coming up here to our mirrors, these are pretty much the same as on the other trim levels. So you have heating and blind spot monitoring. However, you will notice that we have the black mirror cap to match with that front grille.
Now the XSE Highlander is all about sport, and that's going to continue here to the rear design since Toyota has changed a little bit, although not quite as much as they changed in the front. Now as far as the rear design itself, you're going to notice you have these same LED taillights. They do look like they could also be smoked to kind of give it a sportier look. Most of it's going to be LED, the brake light. However, the turn signal and reverse light is incandescent. But the bigger changes are going to be down here in the diffuser area, because this is really quite sporty compared to the normal Highlanders. For one, it's going to be the only Highlander in the entire lineup to have dual exposed exhaust outlets, and you do also have this silver trim, which kind of mirrors what they have in the front. Now a few other design elements you're going to get is black badging here on the rear, and it's also going to black out all of your window trim surrounds to really give it a sporty look from the side as well. And now that I'm at the side, let's go ahead and talk about these safety systems, which is actually a really big talking point for this 2021 Highlander, since it's going to be the first Toyota to have the Safety Sense 2.5 Plus system, which adds additional safety systems onto their already very advanced safety suite. So of course you're going to have full speed adaptive cruise control, as well as auto high beam headlamps, and a bunch of other niceties that you're looking for in a family vehicle like this. But that's going to conclude the radical exterior design for this XSE Highlander. Now let's go ahead and hop on the inside, see what Toyota has changed in there. But before we do that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below.
So the Highlander XSE, as well as all the other Highlanders in the lineup, will come standard with Toyota Smart Entry System and their typical key fob. And you can remote start via the Intune application. Now to get inside the door itself, just grab behind the handle since there is a sensor. And looking inside of this cabin, you are going to notice it is pretty similar to the XLE trim level, since that's what this XSE is based on, but there are some special touches in here which I'll point out as we go through the cabin. Now let's go ahead and talk about what interior options you have. So what we've got here is going to be your standard option. This is your black Softex leatherette seat with a cloth insert. However, you do have one more expressive option, and that's going to be a full red cabin, which does come in real leather. Now turning over here to your door trim, you will find a leatherette material reflected up here as well as along this with the color contrast stitching, and then the top part will be soft touch. And as far as your windows, all 4 will be one touch automatic. Coming down here to your seat, you've got a 10-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. And then like I was already mentioning, we have the leatherette, but in typical Toyota fashion, it's a very realistic leatherette. You probably won't notice a difference, and I do really like the stitching design that they put on here. Now, as far as your interior materials are concerned, you do have a really nice mixture, though of course it's not going to be quite as nice as, say, the platinum grade. So the only spot on the upper dash that's hard touch is right above the gauges here. All the rest of this is actually going to be a padded plastic, but you do lose the stitching detail from the platinum. Down below here we have a faux carbon fiber trim on this XSE, and that does surround the screen. Then you've got leatherette that runs all through the middle, some more of that faux carbon fiber. And then down below, this is going to be hard touch along through here, but everything does fit together extremely well. Now to start it up, of course you have standard push button start. Now taking a look at your gauges here, this is your premium gauge cluster setup, which has the 7-inch display shared with the upper end trim levels. This does contain all the expected information, as well as some extra stuff related to like your 4-wheel drive and your safety systems. And then coming back to the steering wheel itself, of course, as you would expect, you do have a nice leather-wrapped steering wheel and electric power assisted steering. We have the piano black accents as well as color contrast stitching. And as far as the wheel itself, it is going to be manual tilt and telescoping, but you cannot get heating on the XSE. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about interior storage though, because that is one of the Highlander's most impressive things. So starting out under our center console, you just slide that back, and the first thing you'll be greeted with is your Qi wireless phone charging pad. That is standard on the XLE and above. Flip that out of the way though, and that's where you're going to find just a ton of space. Absolutely massive storage. You have a sliding tray, and this goes all the way down to the bottom. Now, as you'd expect with this much storage, we can stick these coupons in here pretty much any way we want to, and it's just going to swallow them up, almost like a full-size truck. You know, kind of reminds me of the Tahoe. Up in front of that, we have our 2 cup holders. We've got another large storage bin, and then we have our impressive storage shelves. So right over there, as well as here, we can store even some more stuff. So this is certainly one of the best options in the class. Now, as far as your shifter, this is just a traditional shifter, so nothing complicated here. Just pull back for drive, and then you can bump over here to the left if you want to do some manual shifting. However, Toyota does not include paddle shifters on any of the models, including this Sporty XSE. Now, when you go into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera across the entire lineup. However, this XSE shares the more basic backup camera with the lower end trim levels, so you don't have active trajectory. You will have to get at least the limited to get active trajectory, and then the platinum for the 360-degree camera. Then when you put the vehicle into park, you will notice your electronic parking brake does automatically deploy, and then right next to that you have your brake hold function. And then you've got a bunch of buttons around this related to your drive modes as well as your 4-wheel drive system. Alright, so now let's move on up the dashboard next to our climate controls. So this has the 3-zone automatic setup. It is standard across all the Highlanders, and it's very simple to use. You can just adjust the temperature with these large knobs like so, and you have physical controls for your fan speeds as well as your zones. Now next to that, we have standard 3-stage heated seats on board. However, if you want ventilation, that's going to require upgrading to one of the more luxurious trim levels. And then right above that, we have our audio controls. So the majority of the trim levels, including this XSE, come standard with a 6-speaker sound system. However, the one and only option package on the XSE is the JBL sound system package. We do have that option, so let's go ahead and sample it. Sound quality of this system is top notch, so if you enjoy audio, I would definitely recommend upgrading to this package. Alright, so now that brings us next to our display. So you'll notice this is not the 12.3-inch display that we showed you guys in the Platinum from last year. This is, of course, shared with the XLE, the 8-inch display. Now, even though this is the smaller display, we actually still do have the dynamic navigation system on board, which is just as responsive as it is in any other Toyota model. And you also have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay abilities. Now jumping on up here, you will find an auto-dimming mirror with the new frameless design, as well as 3 HomeLink universal remotes. However, the smart camera mirror, that's still reserved for just the Platinum trim level. Then up at the very top, we have our moonroof. We just have the standard size unit as standard on the XSE. You cannot get the panoramic option on this trim level.
So sitting in the second row of this Highlander XSE, of course this is a family vehicle. Even though it's sporty on the outside, it still needs to be very comfortable for the rear seats, and I'm happy to say it definitely is. Now, as far as your legroom figures, it's going to come in at 41 inches of rear legroom, 39 inches of rear headroom, which is very class competitive with stuff in the segment like the Kia Telluride as well as Honda Pilot. And behind your seating position, I would say I have solid probably 10 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. So certainly a lot of space, and it is also worth mentioning that these seats can slide forward and back as well as recline. Now, as far as your feature set in the middle, we are going to have our own climate controls on this XSE model. However, you are not going to have heated rear seats. That's going to continue to be Platinum exclusive. And then down here, we have 2 charging USB ports. Another thing I want to mention is that you are going to have captain's chairs on this XSE. So you're going to have the 7-passenger seating, as well as vents up top and a rear window sunshade. Now let's go ahead and check out the third row of this Highlander. So they have made it very easy to get into the third row. Just locate this little lever, pull it once, it will kind of fold the seat back as well as allow you to slide it right out of the way. Now getting back here, as you can probably see, this is not the most spacious third row in the segment. It's going to have 28 inches of rear legroom, which is quite a bit behind most in this segment. As you can also see, there's not a ton of thigh support, so your thighs are just kind of going to be sitting on their own. Thankfully, though, your feet can slide up underneath the seat, and do keep in mind that you can slide this forward to give yourself more leg room. Now, as far as your features, we have 2 cup holders on each side, and Toyota was nice enough to include vents in the roof. Now, walking up to the tailgate, you are going to have a power one. However, it's not going to be hands-free on this XSE model. And once it opens up, you're going to find a nice amount of space. You're going to have pretty significant gains over the previous generation Highlander, since it comes in at 16 cubic feet behind the third row, expands to 48 cubic feet if you fold it, and it goes all the way up to 84 cubic feet if you fold all of the seats. Now, as far as how that compares to its rivals, that is bigger than the Honda Pilot. However, it's less than the Kia Telluride and Hyundai Palisade. Now, as far as how they finished it back here, we have a carpeting along the floor. If we lift it up, we do have a little storage area. You could probably fit a few things back here, but definitely not a lot. We also have a cargo cover stored up under there. And then as far as the seats themselves, they have made it easy to fold them. All you have to do is grab this little lever and push forward. However, do keep in mind you're not going to have a power folding third row, which is something the Hyundai Palisade offers. Now your passenger seat over here is going to be power adjusting. Then as far as the glove box, when we open it up, the glove box, it's actually very deep, so I'm impressed with that. However, it's not super like wide, so you can fit quite a few coupons in here. I know definitely the average Highlander owner will have a lot of kids in the back, so you and all your family can eat affordably. And then up top we do have this little storage cubby that you could throw additional coupons. And then as far as the sun visor, we do have a mirror as well as a light. You can also detach it and extend.
Pretty nice. Yeah. That felt really quite swift. We are going a bit downhill, but no, that still felt really good for this class of vehicle. So with the XSE, you're not going to get a powertrain update or anything like that, but the regular Highlander still has the 3.5 liter V6 engine. So as we said before, some of the rivals use turbo 4 cylinders now. You still have the naturally aspirated V6, you know, with 295 horsepower, 263 pound-feet of torque. So good numbers for sure.
Yeah. It is also worth noting that you can get the Highlander in several different powertrains, like a hybrid on the regular version. However, that's not going to be offered in this XSE trim level. So if you're looking for this, it's going to be V6 only.
This is a nice and powerful sounding engine as well.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the transmission, you have an 8-speed automatic on board. Really good transmission. They haven't really made any changes to it per se for the XSE, but it continues, you know, to basically blend into the background and do a good job.
Yeah. And another thing this Highlander does a really good job about is being very comfortable and quiet inside of the cabin. So I will get a sound level reading here while we're going around 55 miles per hour. Looks like we're going to be sitting at around 57 decibels. Now do keep in mind that it is like about to storm outside, so there is a lot of wind blowing around at this point, so this may be a little bit louder than like another like rival that we've tested at, but I think that's actually very class competitive. Around 56 is where they normally test at for this segment. And as far as like the comfort level that I was kind of alluding to earlier, this XSE, even though it is a sport-oriented model on the outside, they really don't change a whole lot in terms of the comfort when you get behind the wheel. This is a family 3-row after all, so certainly very comfortable. When you hit a bump, you're gonna soak it up just perfectly fine.
Right, the shocks have been retuned just a little bit here in the XSE. We're talking like maybe like a 5 to 10% difference. I mean, it feels maybe a touch sportier behind the wheel, and maybe just the smallest amount worse like ride quality compared to the Platinum we were in. But like I said, we're talking a really small amount. At the end of the day, this is still a 3-row comfort-oriented family crossover, and the XSE continues to nail that. So I went ahead and knocked it into sport mode so I could comment on one of the other XSE updates, and that's the steering has been, you know, updated to be a little bit sportier, a little bit firmer and quicker responding. I have to say, you can tell. So we kind of round this corner here, you can see, you know, good body control for something as big as this is. Also, you know, the steering is very quick responding. You know, obviously it's not like a sports car or anything like that, but it has good feel to it, one of the better in the class.
Now let's go ahead and mention the fuel economy for this Highlander. So for the front wheel drive model on most trims, it's going to be rated at 21 city, 29 highway, 24 combined. And then if you go for all wheel drive, that's going to drop it down to 23 combined, which is one of the best fuel economy ratings that you can get in this segment. That's a very efficient V6 powertrain. It is also worth knowing you can't get that super fuel efficient hybrid model, just not in this XSE model.
So you may be wondering what today's slam dunk is, and we have plenty of options, but one of the biggest things is just the practicality of this package. You just have tons and tons of storage and things for your family to be, utmost comfortable, especially up here in the front where all these shelves and stuff.
Yeah.
Plenty of space for coupons or whatever else you want to store up there.
But speaking of the price, let's go ahead and talk about it for the entire lineup. The L is going to start at $34,600. LE is $36,800. XLE is $39,600. And then for the XSE, that's going to be $41,405. The Limited is $43,795, and the Platinum is $46,965. And then as far as the pricing for this particular model, we do have the one option package that you can get on the XSE, which is the JBL audio system for $1,680, and then adding the destination charge of $1,175 plus all-wheel drive brings this one to $47,181, which is going to be today's airball because we think that's a little bit too high of a price point for what you're getting in this XSE package, especially here on the cabin. This is basically an XLE in the cabin, so you're still going to have stuff like hard untextured plastic on the door trim, and at that $47,000 price point, you can get like a limited trim that's going to have a lot nicer of a cabin.
So overall, we are really impressed by this Highlander XSE. Mainly when you get behind the wheel and you realize, you don't really sacrifice any of those really important and really exceptional characteristics from the regular Highlander, like your comfort and your utility. But you do get the styling, which frankly, stands out a lot more than any other version of the Highlander. It gives this a sense of style that's missing from the other trim levels. So I think this really is an excellent addition to the Highlander lineup.
Well guys, we're one of the first people to get to take a look at this all-new 2021 Toyota Highlander XSE trim level. If you enjoyed watching this video, there's a ton more videos on our channel, so be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.